Welcome to Discovering You, where personality meets possibility. I'm your host, Victoria Theriault. On this show, we dive deep into what makes people tick and how understanding that transforms the way we lead, work, and connect. Hi, listeners. Hi, Heather.
Hi there.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
What color is your mood?
My mood is yellow, high energy and pleasant. And my word is joyful, feeling pleasure and in high spirits.
That's great.
What's your color?
I'm also in yellow. So the word I got, which I know I've never had before, is wishful. And that is having or showing a wish or a longing. I think a lot of this is to do with, a new year and a wish for positive things, not only personally, but globally. Let's go into the new year with that kind of energy, right? Before we get into today's topic, let's look at DISC as Golden Globe nominees. This one feels really relevant because there's a new category this year. Can you guess? It's podcasts. I'm excited because my favorite one is nominated. Here are my thoughts on which podcast exemplifies each DISC factor. High D, the Mel Robbins podcast. It's direct, goal-oriented, a focus on succeeding. High I is smartless, lighthearted, laughing, and lots of over-talking. High S, armchair expert with Dax Shepard. Long-form conversations, supportive, empathetic. And high C, up first. It's NPR, informative, factual. Good luck to the nominees this Sunday. And I think I know who Heather and I will be rooting for.
You think?
Mm-hmm.
We're big fans. Definite armcharies.
That's right. Today, I'm going to be introducing the concept of high potential, specifically as it relates to leadership abilities. And I'll be exploring these questions. Are there people who are natural leaders? Is leadership part of your personality? And can you develop leadership abilities if you don't have them naturally? At the end of last year, I took a course and I got certified in HPTI, which stands for High Potential Trait Indicator, which helps identify, manage, and develop leadership potential. As with my other certifications, it's through Thomas International, and this one is based on the work and research by Ian McRae, Adrian Furnham, and Martin Reed. The assessment that they developed looks at personality traits and how they correlate with leadership abilities. Hey, the tagline for the show is where personality meets possibility. So this is on brand. Now, I want to make a distinction. The word personality is used a lot in relation to assessments, including DISC. Technically, DISC is a behavioral model. It focuses on how people behave in situations and when interacting with others. DISC behaviors can be modified in different scenarios, like at work, under pressure, etc. But personality is believed to be more stable, so there aren't as many shifts as in a behavioral assessment. Why don't we start with a definition of personality from Merriam-Webster? It says the complex of characteristics, including the total of an individual's behavioral and emotional tendencies, that distinguishes a person from others. When looking at personality theory, the two major categories are divided between trait and type-based models. Type models are categorical. They sort people into groups based on one or more personality variables. An example of this is when someone is referred to as type A, which is used to describe a high-strung, driven, competitive personality type. Type B personalities are described as more relaxed, less driven, less competitive. Another example of a type-based personality theory is Myers-Briggs, and we discussed that last season. Now, in trait models, an individual's personality can be described as a location on a continuum. This model has a range, not an either-or, like a type-based one. It uses a Likert scale, like EI and some of the other assessments that we've discussed on here, and that shows a range spanning from least to middle to most. It's similar to the EI assessment because it's comparing results to a norm group. So most people will score in the middle range, while fewer will score on the higher or lower ends. How do we define potential? This involves asking potential to do what? When we look at it in the scope of a career, it means a person with potential is one who can grow to maximize or optimize their talent. I like this explanation because underlying it is the belief that you can develop and enhance your abilities, which is what this show and my business is all about. There are 3 dimensions of potential. Career. These are attributes and skills that have manifested with experience. Foundational. Core attributes that are stable across time. And growth. Attributes that can be improved with guidance and motivation, learning, and training opportunities. Okay, so let's do some sample questions from the assessment to give you a taste of what it's like. And for ease, if you're answering along now, you're going to be framing this as a range from strongly disagree to neutral, all the way to strongly agree. When you do the actual assessment, you'll see that it's a 7-point scale. So on either side of that neutral, we're going to have things like somewhat agree and disagree, and of course, mostly agree, disagree. Here we go. Ready, Heather?
I'm ready.
Okay. Question number 1. I often feel tense at work. For me, I answered mostly disagree. Heather.
I also answered mostly disagree.
Okay. Not surprisingly, what this one is looking for is how you experience stress. Okay, number 2. Generally, I avoid making decisions that have a chance of leading to failure. I said mostly agree. How about you?
I said mostly disagree.
I'm not surprised by that. And this is probing for how you approach risk. Number 3, I work better when I know I'm competing against someone else. I shouldn't be laughing already. This one is interesting because I know for some people this is very true. Not for me. I strongly disagree. How about you, Heather?
I'm either mostly agree or I'm strongly agree.
Yeah.
Undecided which is more me.
But either way,
Yeah.
you're full on in
Yeah,
agreement with
100%.
that. Yes. So not surprisingly, this one is gauging how competitive you are. Number 4 is I strive to be the best at all I do. So I was torn on this one between strongly and mostly agree. And I went with mostly.
I also went with mostly. Again, I went back and forth a little bit. Things I don't want to do, I don't agree with that at all. But if it's something I do, I would be strongly agree.
Yeah. I think that's fair. I think most people answering that question would probably need that frame of reference too. That one was looking for a level of conscientiousness. Number 5 is I love learning new things all the time. That is strongly agree for me.
This is also strongly agree for me.
Like you said in the last one, I think we need maybe a frame of reference because when we're talking about learning, I love learning new things all the time. Like I don't want to learn how to change a tire.
No, exactly.
I think it needs to be something that I'm already interested in, right?
Yeah, 100%. I don't strongly agree when it comes to cooking, but if it's something I actually want to know how to do, I want to know how to be the best at it.
100% in agreement. And number 6 is an open mind is necessary for success. I strongly agree.
I also strongly agree.
Okay, and I'm going to explain a little more what this one is looking for later. Again, this was just a sample. There are 78 questions in a full assessment. If you're wondering what specifically are these questions measuring, they are measuring 6 high potential traits. Again, according to the research of McCrae, Furnham, and Reed. And those 6 traits are conscientiousness, adjustment, curiosity, risk approach, ambiguity acceptance, and competitiveness. You may have noticed that I chose 6 questions, and each one was for a corresponding trait. We're going to explore the first 3 today, and we'll continue with the other 3 next time. Let's start with conscientiousness. We've all heard this word, and I think we understand a basic meaning of it, but I discovered there's more to this one than I would have guessed. And of all 6 of the personality traits, this one has been identified as the most important for leadership. So conscientiousness is defined as a combination of self-discipline, organization, and impulse control. People who have high conscientiousness tend to be well organized, and prefer to make concrete plans. They're good at motivating themselves, they're driven, and they like to accomplish goals. Those with lower conscientiousness, they're more casual about deadlines and timeframes. They go with the flow, they're more open to insights, and may get more satisfaction from things unrelated to career goals or achievements. When I was learning these concepts and studying for my test, I found that connecting them to the disc factors was helpful. Shocker, right? But clearly it works for me in many ways. For conscientiousness, I think it's a combination of high D and high C. Task focused, drive, organized, goal oriented. Does this sound like anyone we know?
Maybe.
Let's look at how this trait manifests through the categories of leadership, individuals, and groups. In leadership, it's related to setting goals and motivating oneself as well as others, being more attentive to detail, and performing tasks to higher standards. For leaders with lower conscientiousness, they may miss important details, have trouble setting individual and team goals, and they can be more prone to derailment, which we'll discuss in part 2. For individuals, higher conscientiousness generally predicts higher performance at work. And for groups, every team or group benefits from at least one person with high conscientiousness who can motivate the team and is able to set clear goals and timeframes. However, you wouldn't want to have an entire team high in this because that dynamic could be very inward focused and very rule bound. The high potential trait indicator scores you in 4 zones, and these zones indicate the intensity of the trait, and they are low, moderate, optimal, and excessive. This is similar to the emotional intelligence assessment because, yes, it is possible to have too much of a good thing. I do want to say if you have excessive levels, though, it's easier to walk that back a bit than it is to dial it up from being too low. If you get excessive, it means that you've already gone through that optimal zone, so it's not so hard to get back to it. I think it's relevant to know that most people will score in the moderate zones, and this is considered to be a perfectly decent level. Very few are in the optimal. For excessively high conscientiousness, how does that show up? What would it look like? It can look like very perfectionistic and workaholic behaviors. Heather, are you game to discuss our scores here?
Oh, absolutely.
I landed in the moderate zone. And I think that feels right to me. I have a fair amount of these descriptors, but not all of them. And since I said it's a combination of high C and high D, that tracks. And since Heather has both high C and high D, then that means Heather scored ...
Excessive.
What do you think?
That lands for me 100%, I think. We joked about this earlier because I'm like, winning, but that's not what excessive
Yes, we should say
means.
that despite me framing it up this way, Heather felt like because that's the top category, excessive, that must mean it's the best. And what a high D thing to be like winning. Like, this is a winning. I'm like, no. And I may or may not have been a person who has called you a workaholic.
Yes, 100%. I own that.
Fair. Okay, so let's move on to the second trait, and it's called adjustment. So this one looks at how people react emotionally to stressors, circumstances, and relationships with others. People with low adjustment tend to experience more negative thoughts and emotions. They're more likely to feel self-conscious about their work, their actions, and how they behave around others. Those with high adjustment generally feel more positive about their work, their performance, and their relationships. They are less preoccupied with demands and strains and feel more confident about their ability to perform. The disc factor that I think most closely aligns with this one is, Heather, do you want to take a guess?
I want to say high D.
Yes, you are correct. Yeah, because I think that Ds thrive when things get intense, and specifically in conflict, they're very confident. And the other thing is they don't tend to worry too much about what others think. As I did with the conscientiousness trait, I'm going to look at this one through leadership, individuals, and groups. The adjustment trait is important for leadership, particularly senior levels of leadership, because demanding jobs in senior positions involve more frequent and intense stressors and lots of interactions with others. So it's definitely an asset to have a high level of adjustment. For individuals, higher adjustment improves performance. Feeling confident and less self-conscious helps people cope under difficult circumstances. More demanding jobs can compound challenges related to stress reactivity. So, very low levels of this trait can result in negative thought patterns, which impact the ability to work to high levels. And for groups, those with low adjustment can become preoccupied with the opinions of others, and they may spend too much time ruminating about minor interactions. Those with higher adjustment are less likely to be unnecessarily self-conscious or embarrassed. So, what if you have too much adjustment? Excessively high adjustment can come across as unemotional, uncaring, aloof, and disinterested. And it can come across as unfeeling and unempathetic to others. For this one, Heather, we both got moderate for adjustment. Does that seem right?
I think so for me. I don't know. I get a little overwhelmed with all the words.
I had to spend a lot of time studying for this one. I'm just trying to give a very high level overview here, but there is a lot to it. It's basically looking at stress management. How are you perceiving it? How does that play out for you? And it's funny, I'm almost surprised I didn't get low in this. I think you definitely handle stress in general more than me. You have so much on your plate and you seem to manage it pretty smoothly from the outside looking in, of course. I think for me, the part that's coming up is I do worry what people think, but maybe that's just the whole empath part. I don't know. The third personality trait is curiosity. And this describes a person's approach to novelty, innovation, change, new information, and methods. Highly curious people think creatively. Now, those with low curiosity prefer tried and tested approaches, and they're more single-minded and focused. They dislike experimenting with new techniques, and they may be seen as rigid and unadventurous. So the DIS factor I chose for this one is, do you want to guess first, Heather?
I think in the big picture of it, I think it's a high I.
You're right.
I don't think that for me because I think I'm curious and I don't have any I, but I see from the profiles, that's what I would pick.
The other descriptors, yeah, because high I's love novelty. They're excited about new ideas. They're usually quite creative, but I also don't have a high I.
Right.
And yet we both have this. Curiosity plays a significant role in leadership. Strong leaders must constantly evaluate information and continually look for ways to improve performance. Leaders who are not open to new ideas can become attached to unproductive ways of working, and they may struggle to adapt to new approaches. For the individual, curiosity is particularly important for jobs that require innovation or flexibility. There's a strong correlation with roles like consultants and small business owners. In groups, people with high curiosity are interested in others' opinions and their ways of working. They like to ask questions and understand why their colleagues are working in certain ways. Those with lower curiosity may be less interested in understanding the motivations of others. Okay, so what does excessively high curiosity look like? People may get off track easily to pursue new, exciting things. They can be unpredictable, inconsistent, unfocused, and they may lack accountability. Others may see this behavior and think it's disruptive and changing just for the sake of change. For this one, we both got mostly optimal. You are just like a tiny hair outside of it. What do you think for that one? Does that resonate?
It does resonate. I like being curious and I own that. I'm going to embrace my mostly optimal.
Yeah, I agree. And that point that it made about consultants or small business owners. So you and I both have that. I think it makes sense, right? Because we kind of have to look at what's working, what's a new way of doing this. Also, adapting, learning, like how do you grow your business? Oh, things are changing now. How do we incorporate that? So I think having curiosity probably is almost a prerequisite for this type of work, right?
Oh, for sure.
I'm going to pause here and we're going to look at the remaining 3 traits next time, as well as some leadership insights. If you're interested in learning more about this assessment for hiring or coaching, you can reach out to me and I'm happy to walk you through it. Thanks for listening. Catch you next time.
Bye.
Bye. This show is a Twisted Spur media production produced by our very own Heather McPherson. If you enjoyed this podcast, please share with a friend and subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts.